Hello. Today we are going to talk about form and composition. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the vocabulary for this first week for form and composition, but I'm also going to walk you through the process of how to do these studies in your sketchbook. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around so you can see my sketchbook. This is the sketchbook that we will be using throughout the semester. So it's really a project book, and you're going to keep everything inside of this sketchbook. But when we do the critiques, you'll upload it to Canvas and make comments on each other's projects. Then we're going to also have 2 opportunities this semester during the summer session to do group critique via Zoom. So the first thing that we want to do always when we do a study is to mark off a 1-inch border. Now there's a number of ways that you can do this, but we're going to use our ruler, our pencil. This assignment you'll also need a Sharpie. So these are the 3 tools: sketchbook, ruler, pencil, Sharpie. There's a number of ways that you can do the border on your paper, but I think the most useful is using this clear guided ruler. And if you notice, now some of you have different rulers. They ran out of the 2-inch ones like this, so some of you have the 1-inch ones. Then you would hold the ruler just to the edge of the paper. But if you have a 2-inch one, you'll notice this is a 1/2 inch and then this is 1 inch here. So what we'll do is we'll line up that inch line to the edge of our paper, not the edge of the sketchbook, because this could be slightly askew. So you just want to make sure your paper is in line with your overall sketchbook. And then what you can do is, since we know this is 8.5 inches, what we could do is we could line the 8 inches up at the end. And if we start a 1/2 inch from the edge here and just keep this line real light and then stop 1 inch away from the border, we know that's going to be 1 inch away from there. So that's one way of doing it. And then lining it up on the edge here on this, again, holding the edge of the paper. Imagine lining up the edge of the paper right to that inch line right there. Start 1 inch in and end 1 inch away from the edge. Now the reason I'm showing you this methodically and carefully is so that you kind of get the idea that craftsmanship and how neat your studies look this semester is important in determining your grade, but also in terms of looking at design, looking at making art, being thoughtful, being careful about where you place things is helpful to have a border, to have an edge. So we'll do that throughout the semester. So again, ending a 1/2 inch in there. If we think start 8, line your ruler up with 8 here, stop a 1/2 inch in, and then I can connect these 2 lines and they should be good. You can also line up the edge of the ruler here with the edge of the paper, and those 2 edge lines that I made, boom, like so. Now we have a nice, neat inch border everywhere. Another way that you could do this, if you would prefer to do it this way, you could line up your ruler this way, the inch there, but the spiral gets in the way of it a little bit. Or another way that you could do it is mark in 1 inch this way, mark in 1 inch this way, and then connect. Try to keep this real light. Now here is the first assignment that we're going to do. We're studying form and we're studying composition. So the first assignment is really simple, but it's cool because it can produce a lot of wide-ranging results. So you use 4 lines. That's it, 4 lines. And for the first one, they are vertical lines. And you can use a ruler, your pencil. You're just going to make 4 lines anywhere. But the first set of instructions is vertical lines only, 4 lines, and try to keep the composition full. So that's the word that's going to be guiding us on this first one, is full. We can make these as short or as long as we want, but try to think about filling this composition for the first study. So I'm going to make these kind of fill the space, and I'm just going to do 4 lines vertical, and they can be anywhere. They don't have to be evenly spaced. They can be short, they can be long. Boom, that's it. 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they are vertical. The next study, so this one was full. Now we're going to do 4 lines, and similar, they're going to be vertical, but this one you want to try to keep the space empty or less full. So I'm going to do 4 lines and my interpretation of empty. They can be any length, they can be placed anywhere. But I want you to kind of pause at this part and think about composition, think about form. This first one, if you can see this, I drew 4 lines. You see those lines on this composition? And it kind of activates a lot of this space. So a couple of vocabulary words to consider. First of all is the word form. I like form because the word itself is both a verb and a noun. So if I look at this image right here, we can think about how Vermeer in this painting here thought about where he was going to place things in the composition. You see it's a woman holding a balance, scale with the jewelry, and there's a dark shadow, there's light coming in, there's a picture on the background. Just a few elements, but Vermeer balanced those really masterfully. And so we could think about the way that maybe an artist forms something. So like, oh, working with a form, like for instance, these chairs, these 2 chairs here. You could form the chairs in terms of a verb, like you could form something with ceramics, you could form something with metal. But we can also think about form in terms of a noun, like the finished product. Look at that form, that's an interesting form. And then the word composition as well. Composition, the word literally translates from the old English, meaning to pause in order to place. And you can think about like composition in terms of music too, to compose something, right? You're thinking about the interval between the notes and maybe how that creates a harmony. Or looking at an image like this, for instance, composition. And this is a really interesting self-portrait. The artist here was using the frame to be about painting. So it's like we see the canvas here, which is a painting, showing that, oh, this is the painter, and they're in the act of painting. But there's just a few elements here. You know, you got the 3 women, the back of the canvas here implying, we can't see what her painting is. Maybe it's this painting right here. It's kind of a meta idea of painting. But composition in thinking about it for design, whether it's graphic design, whether it's a poster, whether it's web design, or whether it's art, thinking about where you place these things. If this figure was lower, if this figure was higher, it would have a different look entirely. Or composition in terms of this very famous image by Goya, the 3rd of May, where the line of French troops are, where the line of the Spanish prisoners were here, the church in the background, it's dark here, it's light here, balancing those things. So composition, we're thinking about where we're placing things. So I've got 4 vertical lines, full. 4 vertical lines, empty. Now we're going to do the same thing with horizontal. 4 horizontal lines, full. Can be anywhere. What I love about this project too is it's simple, but it can create such interesting designs. Next one, 4 horizontal lines, empty. How can we create a sense of emptiness with just 4 horizontal lines? But an interesting thing happens when we start to think about this now as space. Another set of vocab words that I want you to think about is positive space and negative space. And that's where we get into the next part. So this was step 1. You've done step 1 now. And if you want, you can pause this video to make sure you get all of step 1 first before you do step 1 or step 2. But step 1 for vertical lines, that one was full. 4 vertical lines, empty. 4 horizontal lines, full. 1, 2, 3, this little guy way up there. 4 lines, horizontal, empty. The next step, once you do that, is connect these lines in any way. So for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these lines like so. Boom, boom, connected. And I'm going to do the opposite. These go up, and then this one I'm going to have go across. If you want, you could use your ruler. You don't necessarily have to. Connect those lines. I'm going to connect them with a pretty straight line. But maybe on these two, you want to do more of a curving line. Your choice. But we're taking those 4 lines and all we're doing is connecting them. Now, one of the natural ways to connect it would be to go like this, right? Boom, 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 and it would kind of create a shape here and a shape here. But instead, let's do this. Let's connect this way. You can connect these 4 lines any way that you see fit. This is creating a more dynamic composition and more movement within the composition. Last one here, I'm going to use curving lines again, but you can use whatever type of lines you want. It could even be a combination, like I could do curved lines and straight on the same. So that's step 2. Now we're going to move to step 3. Step 3 is to fill these in. To fill these in with Sharpie. And that way it is going to give us a better sense of what we did with the composition. And you can fill these in any way that you want as well. So here we go. We're just going to go for it. And you could fill them in like this. And that would be an outline. Or you could fill them in. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention. This Sharpie will bleed, so you might want to have a scrap piece of paper, put it behind there, and so it goes in between your sheets of paper. Remember, craftsmanship, technique, neatness is important. So right now I'm just doing this, but take your time when you fill these in to make them look neat. I'm going fairly quickly, so this might not be perfect, but you want to take your time, make this look good. This is your moment of Zen. This is your moment of mindfulness. You can find your peace, find your calm. This might seem like, oh, you know, what is the concept or what is the object here? Well, if you ever wondered like how sometimes artists will just get going with a concept or a flow, this is a great way to get the juices flowing, creative juices, and also thinking about composition. Maybe this would become, this doesn't have to just stay abstract. Maybe this, for someone, an artist, this could become a plan for a mural or a plan for a composition where they're going to put 2 figures, for instance. You can learn so much about shape, about balance, about composition. I'm going too fast. I just went outside my line there, but that's okay. It's all right. It's good. I did it again. You can go slower than me. Another concept here is negative space and positive space. So generally when we think about negative space and positive space, we think about this background as the negative space. And we think about these as the black shapes here as the positive space. You can also call this figure and ground. So those are 2 more vocab words. Figure in the sense of a painting would be like the figure, and the background would be the ground. But that's not always the case. So sometimes it might be the reverse. So it's whatever comes out and stands out as being the most important element, that's the figure. And whatever becomes sort of background or secondary or supporting character in that composition would become the ground or the negative space. It doesn't always necessarily mean what's black or what's white either, but that's kind of typically the association that we have. So this isn't super neat yet, but I'm going to make it cleaner. But I just wanted to show you an idea of like what the expectation is for this. We took those 4 lines, we didn't know we were going to do this, and boom, we did this. And I can neaten these lines up. You'll notice that in your pack that I sent y'all, you have some thinner Sharpies. That might be helpful for this, but what I do, I use this kind of medium-sized one, and I just barely graze the surface there and just hit the very edge of it to give me kind of like a nice point. Clean this up a little bit. Boom, you get the idea, right? So this will be my finished composition that you can see here. And here we have, this is an example of negative space, all the white that's back here. And then this is the positive space, or what we call figure, and this is ground. You do not have to fill in the border in any way. Keep that light, keep that just a pencil line, that's fine. Now on any of these, you can make different decisions. There's a lot that you could do with this. It doesn't have to be just the solid filled in shapes. So let me give you an example of what you might do for a little bit of variety. Set the camera back up here. So for this, another example is you could do just the outline. Don't forget, put your scrap paper behind. And then this one, we could fill in more solid. And you're going to do this for all 4 studies. These are going to be due on Monday. I'll have you upload them, and then Tuesday you'll give people feedback on these just to see what variety creatively people come up with this. This is a problem. This is a problem that you get to solve. This is an issue, a design problem, and it might seem like, oh, there's only so many variations. A mathematician could probably tell you how many variations there are, but it actually approaches an infinite amount of just visual, physical arrangements that you could do with just simply 4 lines. Kind of a cool exercise. I could clean this up a little bit. So now you know all of the steps, and I just did these 2 somewhat quickly. You can take your time a little bit more, or make this line a little bit thicker, for instance, if you need to. The idea is you spend as much time as you need to kind of get the feel for the composition, an idea of craftsmanship, technique, and you will get better at this. So if you have area of improvement, that's okay. You'll get better as the semester progresses. Some of y'all might have been making art for a long time. Others might have just started, so don't let that deter you. But what I love about this assignment, oh, look how dirty my hand is. And then I smudged it right there. You might be able to erase that. But if not, this is a great exercise in craftsmanship to show you, just go with it. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So this is a good first assignment because, hey, someone might say, I can't draw. Well, you can probably trace a straight line along a ruler and fill things in with Sharpie, and this helps us to get better at drawing too. So this is those two that I started. I have two more obviously to fill in. I just want to show you different ideas of variation. Here we'd have a decision to make. What would you do on this one? This one is going to be open for interpretation, right? If I filled in this shape here completely in black and then this shape completely in black, you're going to lose this. So maybe instead what I do is fill this part here in black, all of this black, leaving that white. Make this black down here. Boom, and we get this shape. Fill that in completely. I did a couple just preliminary ones to get a sense of how you can expect this to work, just to give you some examples. This first one here, I just kind of played around a little bit. Same idea. This was the 4 vertical lines, like so, filling the space. And then this is how I filled it in. These were 4 horizontal lines, 4 vertical lines, empty, 4 horizontal lines, empty. So you can kind of see the contrast there. So before I sign off, one other thing that I want to tell you about is the next assignment that is also going to be due Monday. It's a cool one. It is your superhero collage. I want you to imagine if you were a superhero, what would your origin story be? Where would you live? What superpower would you have, and what would you do with it? And I'll show you on Canvas a few examples of students who did this assignment last year. I just started this assignment. This is only the second time I've taught it. It's a really cool project. So you're going to collage for that one. So I'll demonstrate a few techniques and I'll post that video as well. Just real simple. It'll be a short video, a couple of simple ideas about just cutting and pasting. But I'll also put on there a worksheet that I want you to fill out for your superhero origin story, and kind of be creative, be thinking about, like, if I was a superhero, what would I want to do? How did I get that way? What would I want to do? What good would I want to, maybe I don't even want to do good. Maybe I don't want people to know that I have this ability, and I'm kind of going to be on the DL or low key about it. So be thinking about, who would you be as a superhero? What power would you want to have? And then we're going to turn these into collages, thinking about composition. How do we fill space? How is filling space this way different than filling space this way? How are we activating the points in a composition? So, food for thought. Hope you all enjoyed this video. This is just step 1, or actually just the first prompt. For week 1, we've got these 4 studies to do in the sketchbook and also the collage. So stay tuned. I'll post that as well. Peace. See y'all.